And this was sent to me recently. We have talked about Erika Kirk's mom and dad being connected with defense. We have talked about her questionable history, how she got to Charlie Kirk, how she became a part of Turning Point. We've gone through all of that. We've debunked many of her lies. But now we need to look a little bit deeper at this family tree, because now it has been brought to my attention that Erika may be connected to the Rothsteins. And I want you to see this for yourself, because if this is true, that means that this could have been planned a long time ago. This video here, we'll get into it. Shout out to Project Constitution. Erika Kirk is a Rothstein. People need to see this, guys. This goes way back.
We see a common thread that this same female is commenting on Erika's posts, and she just so happens to look like Erika's roommate who appears in these videos. And her name is Nicole Rothstein. And Nicole is actually not just her roommate or soulmate or best friend, whatever she calls her. Nicole is also Erika's cousin. And this is going to become a much bigger deal as we move forward. Nicole, unlike Erika, at least, at face value comes from money, and interesting money at that. The Rothstein name is not exactly synonymous with honesty. If they were in a dictionary, those two are on the opposite ends of one another. In fact, antonyms would probably be a better way to put it. In this photo Erika posted in 2017, she is sitting next to a man whom I wager to be in his 50s, and another man who's standing in front of her, who I would wager is putting the pedal to the metal, pushing 70, late 70s that is. And at the time, and really up until recently, if you had clicked on that photo on Erika Kirk's account on Instagram, you would notice that there's someone tagged. And that someone tagged is named Allan Rothstein, who Erika says is her uncle. And this old dude, I'm presuming here is Gramps, and this uncle that she references, I can only imagine is on the mother's side and is a member of that unknown segment of Erika's family that is seemingly being obfuscated. In any case, though, when reviewing who Allan Rothstein is, I can understand why Erika may have chosen to hide that side of her family. Because Allan is not, as Hannah Montana says, the boy, the boy, the boy, the honest goods, the real McCoy. My goodness. Uncle Allan has been involved in several criminal operations. For instance, there is a long
pause. So, yes, Allan Rothstein, and what you're going to see here, all these organizations that he was a part of, criminal organizations, and it goes very deep when you see this family tree. And this actually does matter, because at first I pointed to like, okay, well, the mom, you know, she worked for Homeland Security, dad worked for defense in Israel, but now it gets even deeper. So pay attention here.
Long case file which goes into detail about how Allan defrauded someone of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's supposed to be a consultant, but was actually just an insider, kind of like a spy, and was just getting info and using his position to spend hundreds of thousands of the company's dollars doing nothing. And Allan, if you're watching this, just want to say, that's not cool, bro. Jerk move. The document then gets deep into legal jargon, but discusses tens of millions of dollars at one point and falsely claimed assets, and then goes into the realm where a lawyer might be mildly confused. At his heart, though, Allan seems to possess the sticky fingers that his namesake is so infamous for, as we shall see. And lo and behold, someone who likes to pilfer the proverbial cookie jar also possesses a number of what are pretty obvious, in my opinion, front companies. I run into a ton of these in videos. They're companies with little or no website, no customer history, no definable product, and they just sit there for years and sometimes decades doing nothing. But they are convenient for running money through, especially ill-gotten money, which seems to be Allan's MO. Not kidding, I was peeping through his companies, and he's got a property management company, a hedge fund, and a bunch of others, and none of them seem to actually do much. That all said, whatever Allan and his family are doing is evidently working quite well for them, I might add. As Allan, though through a tool I use, I learned that Allan lives in a $13 million home. Not bad for a guy who seems to have never really worked a job or built anything himself. And that sort of cash also speaks to who was funding Erika's cousin Nicole, and possibly Erika herself, while they live the expensive Manhattan life, doing nothing of material value.
And here's something else we got to bring up too that I talked about before, right? Something else that I wanted to talk about with Erika Kirk. Remember when we talked about the fact that she was working for that Corcoran Realtor Group in New York City? She had no real estate experience. All right, fine. You got to get started somewhere. You get started with a company that is like selling these luxury houses and apartments. And it just also happens to be the same company that ends up selling Epstein's real estate. That was very weird. I mean, it was kind of strange. Usually, when someone's just starting out in real estate, you're not immediately just thrusted into luxury real estate. I found that to be kind of strange. All these different things that just seem to drop into her lap. But if you follow the family tree, maybe now people start to understand how she was able to have those opportunities. Let's continue on here.
Now let's jump another step into the family and hit up Carla Solomon, originally Carla Francevy. This is apparently Erika's dad's sister, so once again, a little info on the mom's side. Carla can be explained in the following words. From the YouTube commenter, Vivian Ballard 391 5 years ago. I'm not implying that she is only interested in the financial stability of men. However, it must be said that she avoids relations with impoverished men. YouTube really is a wonderful place. Thank you for that comment. In other words, Carla married a man about 29 years older than her by the name of Jack David Solomon.
Jack David Solomon. So he married into Erika Kirk's family. This guy's really important. Watch.
A 29-year age difference. Jack himself is a bit of a character. He's one of the few people who have been born in America that possesses such an immense affinity for Israel. And oh yeah, we're going there. Jack has been a leading executive, or simply the leading executive, at a plethora of some of the largest companies on Earth, many of which possess multi-billion-dollar valuations and or are simply government operations.
Vice president, president, chairman, foundation chairman, chairman of the board of the directors. How do you have these high, profile titles with every single thing?
For instance, for whatever reason, he was plopped into the chairman position of the board of directors for things like Federal Land and Development Corporation for 36 years, and Federal Research and Development, and Advanced Patent Technical. All sorts of things that when I'm reading it make me go, who are you really, bro? Especially because a sort of thing like that requires power, influence, money, control, and access, and gains you a lot of power, influence, money, control, and access. And for this next bit, I'm just going to skim through some of the organizations he's been highlighted as being a member of from his death website, although I assure you there are likely many, many others. Membership: National Directory Quality Operations Foundation, 1963 to 1966. He's a sponsor of the National Hospital of Denver. He's also the co-founder of the Israeli Armored Corps Museum. Patron or Chadash Orphanage Israel. Vice Chairman California Democratic Council, 19.
So here is where you start to see the Israel connection, right? So all of these things.
1966 to 1970, candidate for California State. 1966, director of the United Jewish Foundation. 1956 to 1967, committee member for the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. Member of the World Affairs Council, member of the President's Cabinet for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, member Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce. Oh yeah, that'd be because he was a controversial casino owner. He was also the director of the Utah Shakespearean Festival, 1999 to 2000. Seems like a weird addition. He's also the member of the American Air Museum in Britain, a foundation member, the Armed Forces Commission and Electronics Association. Sounds powerful. National Aeronautics Association, International Association of Business and Professional, honorary. B'nai B'rith, President Club, Utah Valley State College.
This ding, 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 ding. So Solomon, who married into Erika Kirk's family, was also, see, look at the school, Utah Valley State College. Does that sound familiar to you guys? That's the same school Charlie Kirk was killed at. It could just be a coincidence, but I think that that is interesting. So Solomon was also involved there as well. Like, who does all these things and is literally at the top of everything? How do you have the top seat at every single organization or job that you have?
Yes, that's where Charlie Kirk was shot. President Club, Brigham Young University. President Club, World Jewish Congress, life. 32nd degree Mason, Scottish Rite, life. Yeah, so a lot of things should stand out to you there. The UVU, the massive ties to Israel, the powerful committees and organizations. And I could really out for a while just about the Israel connections alone and why that's weird. But if I have to tell you that, then you've probably been living under a rock and missed the dozens of red flags I just.
So there's a lot of red flags here that I think people need to pay attention to. Like I said, how do you get in that type of a situation where you just happen to be front and center of everything? So let's go to the next part here.
In Jerusalem, which is rather a big deal to folks over there. Needless to say, he's sort of a huge.
Go back, sorry.
So deep that bro paid for and restored the ancient Zion's Gate and Plaza in Jerusalem, which is rather a big deal to folks over there. Needless to say, he's sort of a huge deal in that community, and he's also very clearly connected to the highest echelons of the government and business, and the people who decide if and what you shall eat. What an odd family member for Erika to have, considering I was under the impression she was a Christian girl from Scottsdale, Arizona. But if this all didn't elucidate you to the fact that we are talking about some seriously connected people, like I said, he's a member of this thing called, that I can't pronounce, it's a Jewish secret society named B'nai B'rith. It's a very unique organization, very secret society-esque, very Freemason-esque, which apparently is controversial because they claim it's antiseptic to say that they are Freemason related, despite having a huge portion of their founding members actually being Freemasons as well. So take that as you may. But whatever, toss that aside. We also know from that whole blurb, Jackie Poo is a 32nd degree Freemason, which should be ringing bells for everybody, from the most unfamiliar with this sort of quote-unquote conspiracy theory world to the most familiar. The Masons are weird people. I've had personal experiences with them, for sure on a list of theirs. That's a story for another time. But if you're really unfamiliar, putting it as short as I can, it's an organization that is a complete secret society. It's very occult. They worship Satan, but that's a point for another time. They have been known as global manipulators for centuries. Countries have banned them because of who they are, but they are known to use their wealth and intrigue to control nations and to shape the futures of people and nations.
Again, it reminds me of Eyes Wide Shut. That's what it reminds me of.
And may or may not, definitely were, in my opinion, involved in assassinations historically, and things like the planting of people into positions of power that allowed them to exert further control and influence, and you know, the everyday stuff. But I'm sure none of that should sound even remotely familiar or be ringing true for the overarching Erika Kirk story, because that'd be weird. On top of all this, Solomon's also known for some immense scandals, including stock fraud, investor fraud, casino fraud. In fact, he built a casino and then got taken out of the CEO position because of his fraudulent activities. He wasn't allowed to be in control of the company anymore. All sorts of stuff like that. And you go, huh, it seems like quite the character. And yet he amassed massive fortunes and got appointed to all these big companies and was also appointed to the government to very important roles. So it makes you wonder who he actually knew and who he actually was. But leaving those two oddball characters right in the dust, here's where things are going to get even loonier. Rothstein is not only a relatively rare name, making it more than not simple to trace. It's also an infamous name, most especially if you're a sports aficionado, specifically baseball. Let me explain though. Long before Allan and Jack were manipulating corporations, looting the masses, and stacking it up into their $13 million homes, let me reiterate, $13 million, that's the sort of money only like a handful of people on Earth possess, so what's going on there? And I think I know the answer because there is a pretty clear progenitor to the Rothstein proclivity of purloining the populace's purse, and his name was Arnold Rothstein, a Jewish criminal who, it's widely asserted, fixed the 1919 World Series. He bet over $250,000, which at that time is an unprecedented fortune, roughly $5 million today, but that doesn't really factor in for the lack of buying power and what all that means. He, in essence, made the bet, the wager, that Chicago would lose to the Cincinnati Red Stockings in the 1919 World Series. For color on who Rothstein is, he didn't come out of nowhere. Rothstein was a longtime fixer, or in other words, cheater, as well as financier of crimes of all kinds, from the least degenerate to the maximum degeneracy. But in this specific instance, with the 1919 World Series, he, through a series of payoffs and threats to, people's families, ensured that the Cincinnati Reds won the people who he bet on, which is illegal for all sorts of reasons. Arnold, though.
Something else I want to mention, because he's getting into like the sports gambling part, but something else I want to mention, because we want to fast forward to the family tree that I think people need to take into consideration. So you guys got to remember back in the day with the casinos, because Solomon also was involved with the casinos. You got to remember back in the day, like the mob ran casinos. Watch the movie Casino. There's a lot of, truths in there. And that's another thing I was looking at too. Like, what are the chances that there could have been some type of mob affiliation there as well with Solomon? Now, when we look at this family tree, watch this part.
link, and I think it's one of the most critical links possible. I hope you all can assist me here with it. Arnold Rothstein, likely resulting from his profession of, murdering people and causing crime, kept it under wraps if and how many children he had and where they lived. And so it's been very hard to really connect to who he is. But if you look down the family tree and at some of his siblings and all that, you will notice that there are more Rothsteins that continue on the family name. But they all do something very interesting across genealogy sites. And the genealogy sites themselves might be in on this. And the thing they do is that they redact the children of these initial Rothsteins. And so that makes it very hard, dare I say impossible, for us to know who are actually Rothsteins today and if they're 100% connected to one another. And so I ask you guys to help me out here to try and find these missing links to start building this family tree so we can officially connect Erika Kirk to these Rothsteins and to these known criminals and justice system manipulators, just generally bad people. And I imagine that they probably keep this quiet and are trying to hide their identities, especially if Erika Kirk is one of them, because it would be pretty obvious that we shouldn't trust these people, as there are generations of Rothsteins who have committed all of these heinous crimes. And to think that they would be in such positions of power today might cause the American people to go, we don't really want that, do we? But I don't want to yap too much, but we have this.
So you guys get the idea. Measurement says, Sabs, I have confirmed casino was about Erika's family. I have to say allegedly, of course, and we have receipts. We'll send. They have been pulling so much down. That's another thing too, because people have started looking into her a little bit more. We're noticing that things are just being deleted, right? But here's the thing. This is important for people to know, because when I tell you, no, you don't just happen to work hard and things just work out. For some, yes. But for many, they got to where they are because they knew someone. And now you're looking at this stuff with Erika, and now it makes sense how she's been able to just hop around to this thing, to that thing, to this career, to that career, and not really even have to worry about money. That was another thing that stood out to me. Yeah, I know you get money when you win like the beauty pageants, but it doesn't last forever, right? It was interesting to me that she was living in New York City and she's working for this real estate agency, but apparently never sold anything. So she wasn't making money from that. We all know New York City is really expensive. And then she decides to interview for this job for Turning Point USA. And it was kind of weird because she said she was happy doing what she was doing in New York. So it almost kind of seemed like that was an assignment that she was put on. Then you go back to the Romania situation. She started a charity when she was 17, a nonprofit, excuse me, when she was 17, the Romanian Angels or whatever. Yeah, but look at the family that she coming from. What I'm saying is it's being sold to the public as though, look at me, I worked hard and that's how I achieved these things. When the reality is she had the right connections, the right people in the family to be able to get the door open for those types of opportunities. This really matters. The fact that Jack Solomon, who I had never heard of until recently when this information was sent my way, the fact that Jack Solomon married into her family, and this is the same guy who also was affiliated with Utah, State Valley, the same school that Charlie Kirk was killed at. And then this guy also had his hand in the casino, the Vegas world as well. Then also on top of that, this guy just happened to be the top title of every single job or organization that he was a part of. Then you have the Allan Rothstein connection as well. So it's alleged that that is Erika's uncle. That's not a nobody person. The point is this: Charlie Kirk was never going to have the opportunity to criticize Israel the way that he started doing and stay married to Erika Kirk. You hear me? Charlie Kirk was never going to have the opportunity to continue to criticize Israel the way that he started doing and stay married to Erika Kirk. That's why you hear people saying it seems like she was a honeypot. Things don't add up. There's other things people are posting on social media about. It looks like she may have also had another relationship with a female. Looks like it's an intimate relationship with the female, allegedly. Don't know. That girl looks like she was Miss North Carolina at some point in time, which what it is what it is. If that's you, you do you. But that's not the message that Erika was selling. When we go back and we watch those old videos, it was very clear to me. It looks like Erika was happiest when she was out there doing what she was doing, whether it was doing the music videos or auditioning for The Amazing Race. That looked like that's what Erika wanted to do. But she out here sitting on couches with Barry Weiss and all of them and telling all the other women, get married young and don't wait to have kids, when you was out here living your best life. I don't know. That's another good question. People are asking, where are the kids? Don't know. Because you see Erika everywhere, but you don't seem to see her with these kids. So there's rumors about that too. People are like, well, the kids, were they taken away? Were they not? I don't know. But it's just very weird. There was nothing about her that I saw in those other videos, and I found out recently, that gave me the impression that she wanted to be a traditional wife. And that's fine. You don't have to be that. Problem is, she's selling that and she ain't about it. That's my thing. I don't sit here and claim to be some traditional wife either, but if I did, I would want to be called out on it. It's like, So I don't know, guys. This goes deeper than I realized. Like I said, when you're looking at the family tree, the connections, this goes a lot deeper. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.